And we're live. Welcome to the PCS Q&A Coronavirus Edition. I'm your host, MJ Boyce. I'm the Director of Community Outreach at PCSgrades. Today we have with us Amy Dawson, and she is our Move Coordinator Specialist, if you will. We're going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself in just a minute. And then I'll introduce our awesome PCS Reform Advocate, Megan Harless. We all know her. We don't live under a rock, so we're good. But we'll see her mug in just a second. Before we do that, I got a couple of housekeeping items. I say it all the time. You guys are used to my jam. First and foremost, we bring these experts to you because 9 times out of 10, they have the answer. They are the most knowledgeable people about the topics that we're talking about. Specifically, everything that we do here is going to have an answer. We have the answers and we're bringing them to you. That's why we have these subject matter experts. And if we don't know the answers, we know who does. And if we don't know who does, we're going to take your questions for action, leave them in the comment section below. And we usually get to them around the end. And sometimes we'll throw them up as we're talking. But we'll usually, if you ask a question and we don't answer it right away, please know we will get to you. We won't leave you hanging, I promise. Also, the last thing I want to say, second to last. No matter what happens, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what question you have, if nobody can answer your question, or if you have a very specific situation that just really needs attention, your best resources will forever and always be your chain of command and your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who are handling your stuff. Those are the people who can help see you through because they are the decision makers in your situation. Lastly, we are flattening the curve, people. We are doing our part. This is a crappy situation. We are flattening the curve and we are flattening Murphy with it. That's why we do what we do here. All right, Megan, why don't you go ahead with those DoD updates?
So just a few updates for you all this week. June 30th is still the date. So there was an announcement made late last week from the Assistant Secretary of Defense Hoffman about the stop-move order, and that right now they are still keeping it as June 30th. I know a lot of people were kind of upset that it's June 30th, but the good side of it is that those folks that are planning their PCS right now in July and August are not having to make changes now. So June 30th is still the date, and if it changes, we'll definitely let you guys know. The only other big update I have for you, so also late last week, the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman had a town hall with a also senior enlisted advisor from Transcom, where they discussed things about PCSing. And one of the things that was brought up was about pet fees and pet shipping issues that a lot of families are really facing right now during this COVID stop movement issue, and also just outside of this in general. So one of the good things is that the SEAC did say that he is going to take a look at what those issues are for families with pets. A lot of right now, a lot of families that are used to paying $400 per pet to ship them are now having to pay up to $2,500 for just one pet to get them from point A to point B in their move. They don't want to have families have to make the choice between leaving their pets behind or having a financial hardship because of the fees. So he said they're going to take a look at that, see what they can do. So hopefully coming down the line, maybe in a couple of weeks, a month or two, we might see something that could possibly be a pet allowance fee of some sort to help with those reimbursement costs. But as that continues on and as that changes, we'll definitely bring you news of that if it actually happens. So back to you, MJ.
Awesome. Thanks for those updates, Megan, as always. As everybody knows, anything can change with the drop of a hat in military life as it is, but add COVID to the mix, oh yeah, things are changing by the minute. Sometimes there will be no change, and most of the time, no news is good news. Other times, things will change at such a rapid pace, your head is going to spin off, which is why we exist, which is why we're doing these webinars. We're going to hold you steady for just a few minutes, at least while you're talking to us. All right, so I'm going to introduce our guest today. Our guest today is Amy Dawson, who, by the way, is a Marine spouse. Hoorah, Yakil Semper Fi, sister. Okay. And she is also simultaneously a move coordinator specialist with the Interstate Moving Relocation Logistics. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about what it's like to be on both sides of the truck. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself for me, Amy?
All right. Hello, everybody. I am Amy Dawson. I do work for Interstate Moving, Relocation, and Logistics. I have been with them for 6 years now. And being on this side of the truck, on both sides of the truck, it's a lot of clarification, a lot of clarity, understanding that, there is information that we don't always get being on the military side of it. And then there's information that we don't really need being on the, the move coordinator side of it. So, it's fun, both sides, being on both sides of it. It is interesting, but I am excited to be here.
Awesome. And of course, welcome, Amy. So here's the thing. I have a confession to make. Marine spouse of 20 years, PCS quite a few times. Here's the thing. I didn't really realize or know what a PCS, like a move coordinator does. And I always thought I thought a move coordinator was with the military. I honestly did. And maybe at one point it was like that. But to be honest, I don't even remember ever coordinating with a move coordinator. I don't. And so until fairly recently, obviously I work for PCSgrades, so I have to know now. But until fairly recently, I was very confused about the chicken and the egg. So can you do me a favor and explain to our audience what the role of a move coordinator is and at what point they get to you and how your relationship can help their move?
Right, absolutely. So, funny enough, before I became a move coordinator, I was on the same side as you. I did not realize what a move coordinator was. I didn't know that they existed. I thought that, I moved from point A to point B and no questions asked. I just did what everybody told me to do. Working for Interstate, I've learned what a move coordinator is. So what a move coordinator is we're basically your one-stop shop. We're going to be the ones to make sure we keep you informed, keep all the service providers informed, make sure we have all of the correct services set up for you for your move to make sure that it does go smooth. Being a move coordinator, we don't get your shipment until you have registered through the transportation office on base through the military. You go to them, you do all of your submissions, submit your application. Once it's approved, then it does go out to be assigned to a transportation service provider. Once we do accept the shipments, that is when it gets assigned to your own personal move coordinator. So we're kind of like your personal assistant, for your move. So that's what we handle everything for you.
Awesome.
So with everything that you do, Amy, when should a customer reach out to you versus reaching out to the transportation office? Should they reach out to both of you guys in case there's an issue? Are there any situations that you prefer them to reach out to you over the transportation office or anything that you wouldn't be able to handle?
So for the most part, being a move coordinator, we can handle almost anything. I don't want to say everything because obviously we all know that that's not true, but we are your one-stop shop. So we don't want you wondering on that side, I have this question, who am I going to go to? Hey, you know what? I have a question. I'm going to call Amy. She's going to be able to get it for me. If I can't answer that question for you, I'm going to get you the answer. And if it's outside of my realm, I will then at that point, point you to your transportation office on base. So that way, we can make sure that you do get your questions answered.
Okay. All right. So if a customer's having issues, like if you've got I hate that part. It's just Murphy all up in my brain. If a customer's having issues with like their local crews in their house, whether that's packing, loading, unloading, whatever, and they reach out to you, what happens then? Like what is your authority in this process and what will be done to help the family?
So if you reach out to me because, unfortunately there are situations, they do come up, if there are situations where you're having a problem, please reach out to your move coordinator. Once you do reach out to us, it's not so much about having an authority, but it's more about having a relationship, not only with you as the service member, as the customer, but also with our service providers that are servicing, your household goods shipment. If you're having issues with the local crew member, give us a call. We will reach out to, the owners, the managers at the local service company, and make sure that we do get that taken care of. It's not very often that we have to include or, get the base involved in situations. A lot of times the base is just going to tell you, well, it's between you and the movers. So if we can eliminate that and make sure that we can get it taken care of, make sure that we keep you happy, make sure that we make everything as smooth for you, we would prefer to do that without involving the base. Sometimes involving the base can make the process longer. So if we can cut that out and, get from A to B or A to Z, without taking the side roads, then we would prefer to do that.
Okay. So we know life happens. I mean, in the military, we're used to things falling apart, changing last minute. And so we know, you guys aren't, superheroes. We like to believe you are, but we know you're not superheroes immune to everything, just like we are. So if for some reason, life happens and we can't get a hold of our move coordinator, they're out, emergency leave, family sick, they're sick, and we have a time-sensitive issue that we need to get an answer for. If we can't get a hold of you, who else can we go to try to get those answers for?
And that's actually a great question. I can't speak for other service providers, but I can speak specifically for Interstate. We have a great team of move coordinators. We utilize each other. We lean on each other for the instances if we're not, if we're out, if we're caught up in a meeting, if we're handling another member, we want to make sure that you're taken care of. So we do one call resolution. Somebody that you get on the phone is going to be able to assist you. So it might not always specifically be your move coordinator, but we will be able to help you. So if you're having a problem, you call and, Mary is out for the day and I'm the one that answers the phone. I'm going to do my best to help you and make sure that, we get everything relayed. We're putting everything in the system so that you don't have to keep relaying your situation. We're going to all right there. Everybody has access to it. That way we can all make sure that we handle you professionally and, to the best of our ability and to your standards.
No, and you know what? That is so key. That's one of the worst things. I'll tell you what, I think a lot of companies are realizing now that people hate repeating their story over and over again. Like, I just want to get it tattooed on my face, take a picture and send you a text. Like, literally, that is where I'm at sometimes, especially during a PCS, by the way. But a lot of organizations and companies are getting smart about that. Hey, Sally Mae, if you want to get on that, that'd be great. I'd like to know, what are some common questions? Like, you're absolute, you get this all the time. What common questions do you get asked that you could speak to and that you can provide helpful information on? What are the common FAQs?
The most common frequently asked questions that we get is it's always going to be about the required delivery date, that RDD. A lot of times it is, well, this is my required delivery date. That's the date I'm going to be getting my delivery. I'm not going to be there. What do I do? That required delivery date, I can always tell you that that's not your confirmed delivery date. That is the no later than date that the military has provided the service providers to have the household goods shipped to you. So it can arrive anytime before that date. So for that date, from the time we pick it up till that required delivery date. So, we make sure that we do keep you informed when it comes to those things. Pro gear, that's a huge one. Pro gear. People ask about it. Well, it wasn't marked on my inventory. We're always going to tell you, make sure that you separate it, set it off to the side. Make sure that you review your inventories before you're, signing them. Right. This one's pro gear. This one's pro gear. Make sure that, we're just as responsible as you are when it comes to documenting things, but we want to make sure that we're informing you that you know that these are the things that you need to look out for. Storage, when items go into storage, well, who do I call? How long do I have for, how long can my items be in storage, and who do I call to get it delivered out? We can always give you those, the answers to that as well.
So going off of that, for families that are preparing to move, either during the stop move time, if they have an exception to policy, or even afterwards, what would your advice be to families to help them prepare to ensure that their move will go smooth during this process?
So, I mean, the biggest thing that I can tell you is ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not clear about something, if the information is muddy to you, ask. We can't help you if we don't know what you need help with. Assuming also on our end, a lot of times as a move coordinator, we do assume that, this is basic information that you should know. But as we know, being in the military, we don't always get that information. So ask,
Well, here's the thing. Here's a big question, and I'm going to caveat on that. You don't know what you don't know. So how do I know if I don't know, I'm supposed to ask a question. You know what I mean? I'm brand new to the military, right? Oh, that was an awesome move, by the way. My first PCS, holy crap. Yeah. Wow. And so if I don't know what to ask, and I just, like you said, I just kind of people showed up at my house, they took my stuff. I said, bye. Hopefully I see it on the other end. And but I didn't know the questions to ask. And I keep thinking to myself, oh, if I just would have asked this, if I just would have said this, what would they have done for me here? So if you don't know, this is great because you're saying, okay, if you're going through your first PCS, dude, ask the questions, all the questions. No question is stupid, right?
No, there's no stupid question.
So what would you suggest that somebody do if they don't know what questions to ask?
Utilize the move.mil website. You should receive it's your move packet that outlines everything, go through that. Yes, it's a lot of information, but you're better off having an overload of information than not in any information at all.
Yeah.
My first PCS, that was me. Like I said, I didn't know to ask questions. I didn't even have a move coordinator. And my first PCS was over to Germany. So yeah. So, I just kind of went with it. And as messy as it was, I'm like, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun every time I have to move.
Oh my God.
But I assumed that somebody on base was going to take care of it for me. I assumed somebody on base was going to keep me informed. And that was a very, very wrong assumption. So utilize everything that you can, Google it.
Mm-hmm.
PCSing in the military.
So to build on top of that, one of the questions we had, it posted in our groups recently, for a move coordinator, what's the number one thing a move coordinator wishes a family would call or ask about to let them handle?
So everything, literally everything. If you're packing, a very, very big common, when you go into register your move, you give them a date. When it goes on the website, you register a date. When we receive your move, that date might have been the date that you thought you were packing. But when we receive that move, the military, that's the date that the military says that's the date you're moving out of your residence. So that's your load date. So we have dates that come before that. The service members, a lot of times service members and families don't understand that, and they go to the base. Well, they've added these dates for my move. Well, no, that's not true. We didn't add them to you, but give us a call. Let us handle anything. If we need to switch around dates, we will do our best to accommodate you and, clarify any questions too.
Yeah. And can I just jump in here for a minute? So our last move last summer, our move coordinator was Lauren from Interstate also. And can I just tell you the relationship that you build with your move coordinator, just how important that is in getting through your move? Because I had so many questions. That was our 10th move, y'all. That was our 10th move in 14 years. We've been around the block and we have this down to a science. We know how to do it. but I still had so many questions. We even had one time where you get your emails from DPS when your weight gets entered. And our driver had texted me when they got onto a scale what our weight was. I was just like, awesome, we're under, we're going to get our partial ditty reimbursed with what we had in our car. It's going to be great. When I got the email from DPS, it said we had 39,000 pounds. And my husband was just like, what do we have that weighs so much? We were in the middle of Lowe's too. So it was, a lot of fun.
I'm going to tell you right now, it was your shoes.
Listen, I have a lot of shoes. Leave my shoes alone. But I could call Lauren right then, and I was just like, hey, what's going on? And she's just like, girl, I have no idea. She's like, give me 10 minutes. Let me figure it out. And I'll give you a call back. And, she was able to figure it all out. And she was just like, yeah, you only got 16,000. You're good. And I was just like, okay. She's like, we're getting it fixed. She's like, I have no idea what in the world that was. She's like, but you don't have 39,000 pounds.
Maybe it was kilograms.
But right. But no, it was just so refreshing, that I had somebody that I could call, that was responsive, that could answer either my questions right away, or she said, hey, give me a few minutes and I'll get back to you. And so everyone that's watching, all of our families, I just want you guys to know, don't be afraid of the move coordinators. They're not our enemies. They're there to be our friends. They're there to help us through the issues that we have, answer the questions. They're going to be a lot more easier to get a hold of than our transportation offices are right now, with how they're all remote working and you can only really get a hold of them through email. So don't be afraid to reach out to the move coordinators. Don't be afraid, to ask them those hard, sticky questions, because they will find a way to get you the answer that you need.
Well, and not only that,
go ahead.
You sometimes, not only are they, they there to help us, sometimes they are us, like in Amy's case.
Yeah.
Yes. And, we want to be, basically throughout your relocation, we want to be your best friend. We want to make sure that, a lot of times, yes, we would prefer not to handhold, obviously, but, if it's your first PCS, we want you to be as comfortable as possible. Mm-hmm. We want to keep you informed. We want you to know that we're there for you. This is our job. I'm not here for the military. I'm here for you. So, and that's, that's a huge thing. I want to make sure that, as a move coordinator, we want to make sure that we have a great relationship, so that you can come to me and you can say, hey, Amy, I have a problem with this person over here. Can you help me out? We don't want you to ever think, or ever feel that, well, I just don't trust that person. I can't go and ask them anything. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to make sure that you do. We do our best to build a great relationship with all of our service members that we do work with. And we would hope that, the service members and families would also trust us enough to reciprocate that relationship. I'm
so glad you're on here, man. Why didn't they have this when I was PC? I'm just saying, it's just not fair. I need you guys. I needed you guys years and years ago. We have a lot of great questions, and I'm going to tell you guys now, some of these questions Amy's going to answer, and some of them I'm going to turn over to Megan, because it's one of those things, who is supposed to be handling what? I guarantee you, I'm not going to allow you to leave this webinar, anybody who's watching, without understanding who starts what and when and why. I promise you, we're going to know that. So that brings me, I'm going to jump around here a little bit, and I'm going to start off with Lizanne. And she says, this is a great topic. Do families get a move coordinator if they're doing a ditty or a partial ditty? Or is it only when you use the moving company through, for a full household goods move?
So not if you do a full ditty. Full ditty, that's you between a moving company, private contract, that way sort of deal. But if you are doing a partial ditty, that's assumed that you are going with military movers that are contracted to come get most of your stuff. So in that case, you would get a move coordinator assigned to you.
And that would only be for the stuff that they're handling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And kind of staying on the PPM train, because in many ways this does impact. So Sarah, hi Sarah. When getting quotes from a moving company, specifically for a PPM, should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Or should we wait until we get the quotes from the moving company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we wait until we get the quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the moving company, hey, we need to get quotes from this company? Should we tell the that we're in the military and PCSing, or should we keep that quiet? Like, is there a difference in pricing and date flexibility, insurance, or anything like that? So if somebody were to reach out to Interstate, for instance, for their own PPM move to get a quote or whatever, what is your suggestion?
I mean, for Interstate specifically, yeah, absolutely. Let us know that you're military. We want to make sure that we are accommodating you and, servicing you to the best of our abilities. We want to make sure that you get all the entitlements that you should be getting, and that, we are taking into consideration. We understand that militaries have deadlines. So, let us know that you are military. Let the moving companies know that you are military, because there are a lot of different factors that they need to factor in when setting up moves and quotes and things like that. So, I mean, I would recommend yes.
I just want to add on there about the date flexibility. Even if you're not doing a PPM, even if you're doing the regular military contracted move, if you have flexibility in your dates, definitely let your move coordinator know that. Like we've said before, stuff happens, life happens. Somebody on your packing crew might get sick, have a family emergency, then they're down a person. So if you have flexibility in your moving dates, definitely let them know, like, hey, I have to be out of my house by July 15th, but we have some room before that. If you need to come and pack earlier, you can accommodate that. So if you have the flexibility in your dates, don't be afraid to let them know that. So that way, if something does happen, they can maybe try to reschedule some things, shift some things around, so you can still get, the best quality crew that they can provide for you.
And that's even for regularly scheduled moves through your transportation office.
Yeah.
Let your move coordinator know that you do have date flexibility, because then that way, there are things that we can move around a lot, so that it's not, we don't ever want to do a rush job. So if we're able to, hand pick, hey, this crew is going to be the best one to take care of them, they have that date flexibility, we want to have the option to do that.
Okay. Here we have Sarah with an H. Different Sarah with no H. This is Sarah with an H. Hi, Sarah with an H. She wants to know about, so do you guys handle actually anything when it comes to OCONUS moves? Do you ever handle anybody's household goods when it's OCONUS?
So we do handle overseas as well. We have, our move coordinators that specialize in overseas moves. So they've got all the nitty gritty on, the ports, the transit times, and things like that. So yes, we do those as well.
Okay. So let's go with, where'd it go? Jessica. I had to put my household good items in storage because of the stop movement, but I'm only authorized GBL. Will they repack everything? Who could authorize PPM? Okay. Hi, Jessica. All right. Amy or Megan, can either one of you tell me what a GBL is? No, so many acronyms. Do either of you know?
The GBL is the government bill of lading, is what, for us, that's what it pertains to. So if it's in personal storage or military storage, that would be, we would need that to be able to answer, like I would need that to be able to answer the question.
As far as repacking things in storage, we've had a storage unit before, and it was kind of hit or miss. It depends on how your stuff is packed going in there. So if it was professionally packed and you had it delivered to a moving storage and it sat that way, they probably will not repack it. But if you had put it in there yourself, you decide stuff you don't want in your home, you put it in there, they may repack some things. If it's plastic tote bins, I've seen them open stuff up, add extra packing paper, verified contents, and then tape it up as is. And then as far as authorizing a PPM, that's through your transportation office. You need your hard orders, and then you're going to have to submit to do a PPM, and you'll have to get counseled by your local transportation office in order to do the PPM.
Okay. All right. Sarah with an H, you are on fire today. I'm telling you what. On fire. All my stuff's in storage in a different state. We're PCSing soon overseas. Will TMO meet me at a storage unit? And I'm assuming
it depends on where you're storage unit is at. If it's near a military base, there's a chance if it's, move set up through DPS, there's a chance a transportation QA inspector, quality assurance inspector could come out and see how things are going. If your storage unit is not near a military base, they will probably not meet you there. They may call you during the process to verify, that it's happening, to ask if there's any questions or issues. So it really just kind of depends on where that storage unit is at.
Okay. Where'd it go? All right. Oh, wow. We have lots of questions. Lots of really good questions. Wow, Sarah. Okay. One more from Sarah. What's the man, Sarah? Okay, you better be following our page because I know you've got the questions. You've got all the questions, and a lot of people have these questions. What's the difference between unaccompanied and accompanied for overseas moves, and should she do unaccompanied?
So the difference between unaccompanied and accompanied for overseas moves, unaccompanied is it's going to be household goods, necessities that you send over before you leave. The transit time for overseas is, obviously it's going to take a while because it has to travel from the state to the port, then it gets loaded onto the vessel, then the vessel's got to go over. So, the transit time is a lot longer. So you send things over unaccompanied before you go so that it meets you there, or you get there shortly before it does. So that way you do have some necessities while you're overseas waiting for the rest of the household goods to arrive. Should you do unaccompanied? I didn't do unaccompanied in my first PCS overseas. Personally, I would recommend it because we were stuck for 2 months. It's a completely different situation. It could be different for everybody, but we moved our stuff. We shipped our stuff literally 2 weeks before we flew out. So that obviously does not give enough time for your stuff to arrive overseas. So we lived out of a suitcase for a very long time. So I wish I would have done unaccompanied, but it is, for a lot of people, it's personal on whether or not you want to do it.
Yeah, and also to note for your unaccompanied baggage shipment, there are restrictions on what you can and cannot put in there. So like you can't put your bed frame, your dresser, and your couch and big furniture in there, but you can put like some of your pots and pans and other necessity items that could get you through that month or two while you're waiting for the rest of your shipment. So there's lists on what's allowed and what's not allowed. So the big thing is just to make sure if you do unaccompanied, you account for what is not allowed to plan properly.
Gotcha. And just an FYI, Sarah just put this up too, so she's new. Let me tell you something, Sarah. You are the person that definitely needs to be watching it. I want to say kudos for watching this as a new spouse, or for, it's the movie gig. And for those of you who are seasoned spouses and this isn't your first rodeo, share this with those who aren't, who have no idea what is happening and don't know the rear end from a hole in the wall when it comes to this, because this information is going to give them a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. So kudos, Sarah, and pass that along. Okay, we have Amber. So Amber, I'm not going to put your thing up, your comment up, just because it's so long. It'll take up all of our faces. But I'm going to read it because it is relevant, and we might have to take this for action, but I want you to know that we get the situation. So she says, we're being told we have to have an actual address, not just city and state, to apply for our move. And if we don't, our application is going to be terminated. We have never had an address pre-move. We are not being given the option of temporary storage in our destination city until we find a house and have a valid address. We are only being told that we can do long-term storage with a mandatory time frame of 1 year with no early release of our goods before that. What are any suggestions that we can do to fix this? I think our transportation person is greatly misinformed, but we have no way to contact anyone else. Only way to communicate is via email, which is making this harder to sort out. We have 4 weeks until we have to vacate, so this needs to be done ASAP. Now, the first thing, just like I say at all times, always contact that chain of command. Get them involved. But Megan, what's her other recourse?
So you shouldn't need an address as the first thing to answer your questions. We've had several moves ourselves where we did not have an address before we moved. When you go into DPS and you put in your next location and ask you for an address, you can just put in the base and state that you're going to. There are many times where we had Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, or Fort Hood, Texas, or Fort Lee, Virginia, because we didn't have an address yet. And that's totally acceptable because they know at least what area, what base they need to ship your household goods to. So as you had commented, I would assume, just like you, that it's probably misinformation being passed down. So I would definitely go back and try that. Additionally, on move.mil, if you go there at the very top, they have their little COVID link where they have kind of all of their updated regulations, policies, and things. If you scroll down, each service branch also has listed their kind of exception to policy processes and contact information.
Really quick, this might be relevant. Is this relevant to what her recourse is?
No base. No, because they should still be able to ship it close to your home of record, though. Yeah, they should still be able. So on prior service, I served 4 years. When I was ETSing and separating, I did not have an address for that move. I only had a location, and so they shipped my household goods to that location. So even if there's no base, you can still put it in the city. They'll ship them to that. Still ship it to that area, though. But I would still get on move.mil under that link. They have some additional contact information for each of the services. And so I would use that contact information. They have, I think, phone numbers or at least email addresses listed. Reach out to those for your specific service, for your issue, and see how far you can get with that. But you should not need an address to get it done.
Exactly. And I can speak to that as well. Definitely, my husband recently retired. And so, that we went through the same exact scenario. I totally get where you're coming from. And the links that she's referring to, like there's a point of contact with an email address and a telephone number. We're going to drop those links for you, Amber, into the comment section here shortly as soon as our webinar is over. We're going to put that in there for you so that you can go right to it and find exactly who you need to contact. And we're also going to follow up with you because we think that it's really important that you're not just left hanging, and we want to, be updated on your situation to make sure that there's some sort of resolution. We may not have the answer right now, but we're going to help you find it. So thank you. Let's see, who else do we have? Megan. There are a few comments in here that we're going to address. I just want to let you know that if we don't address it during this webinar, we're going to address it offline, and we're going to get you the answers. Just check in. We will reply to all of your messages, and we will give you those links as well. It's just really, I just think that it's really important because even I didn't know this, that there were a lot of the issues that happened before our moves even get to Amy or, any of Amy's counterparts. We don't know that they're not one and the same. Amy doesn't get to be with us until the military says, okay, these people have scheduled their move. They are yours now. Here's the application. They are now yours. It is up to our local transportation office. It is up to us and up to them to assign Amy to us. We all want an Amy in our lives. Here's an interesting question that maybe one of you can answer. Is there a list of hotels that are open for PCS moves across the U.S.? And I'm assuming, Michelle, hey, Michelle, I'm assuming that you mean maybe during COVID, but is there a list in general or COVID specific, Amy or Megan?
Not that I've seen. I mean, not that I've seen. I know some people that have traveled, not fully PCS related during this time and have stayed at hotels. A lot of people have said depending on hotels they've stayed at have been really clean. Their service has been really good. They haven't had any issues with things. Some of the hotels are even offering like box to go breakfast when they couldn't do their regular continental breakfast kind of deal to kind of help with the people gathering sort of deal. But there is not really a list that I know of. A common
So
question.
what do you think that someone who's maybe traveling across country for a PCS should do?
I would say map out the route you're traveling, figure out how far you want to get each day, and then see where you think a good stop point would be. Pick out a couple of hotels and maybe give them a call and see, if they're open, what their policies are, if you can book with them. I know a lot of people will book with one hotel type of chain, so that way they can get the extra rewards and points for various things. We do get a lot of questions about pet hotels. I know like Red Roof Inn, La Quinta, there's a couple other ones that always allow pets, usually without fees. Other ones do with fees and restrictions. But I would really map out what route you're taking, decide where your stopping point each day is going to be, and then Google some and give them a call.
Okay. I think that, yeah. And I think that, so you don't help with that, Amy, right? Like that's not really your wheelhouse. You're just like in charge of the stuff.
Yes, it's not. We're just in charge of the move and things like that. I mean, obviously, we can give our recommendations, personally, if we know things that are open, or if we know we've heard that there are chains that are, that are accepting, reservations and stuff, then obviously we're more than happy to share that information. But to have information specific like that, we don't. I would check with like if you're going to a different on a different base, if you have a sponsor or somebody there that you're working with, like since you're incoming, talk to them, see if maybe they know as well.
Okay. So, oh my goodness. Sarah on fire. We need to get Sarah a PCSgrades t-shirt for her to wear during her PCS to stave Murphy away. And if you don't know about Murphy's Law, girl, honey, get very ready for that. Okay, so she says, me again, unaccompanied. Is that a different company from TMO? I have to meet TMO in LA and then go back to Florida, and the closest base is 2 hours away. My husband's deployed and not at home. So can you kind of differentiate how that works?
So your unaccompanied so TMO is different than your TSP. The TMO is going to be the Transportation Management Office on base. So you might be asking about the TSP. Usually you're going to have two different TSPs when it comes to unaccompanied and accompanied baggage. So you will have two different TSPs. So let's see here. If I have to meet in TMO in LA and then go back to Florida, a lot of times you can, since you are in two separate states, you would be able to name a releasing agent, which is somebody that can stand in your place to oversee the move and sign the documents for you. So that way you don't have to try to be in two places at once.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, we already have to kind of be going all different sorts of ways. Like, just our brains have to be doing that. I can't imagine trying to be in two physical locations. Just rip me apart already. Okay. We have, oh, hi, Mimi. Okay, so Mimi says, this is probably a Megan question, what are the rules right now for the COVID situation for PCS, for overseas PCS? So I know it's going to be different, right? For depending on where OCONUS you're going.
It really depends on where you're going to. Every country kind of has their own guidelines for how they are allowing people in and out of the country in regards to like quarantining and movement and such. So a lot of locations, they do have a 2-week quarantine period that you're going to have to go through. A lot of that, especially overseas, is probably going to happen in a hotel room. I know that sounds kind of scary, and there's been a lot of talk about what does that all kind of look like, being in a hotel room, quarantining, needing to get food, take care of animals, kids, all that stuff. The DoD did say that your sponsor, your OCONA sponsor, should be stepping in to help you. That they should be able to step in to help get you groceries, to help deliver food, to help with those things that you need while you're quarantining. But it's really going to be dependent. I see you're going to Germany. So I think you're going to have that standard 2-week period. But a lot of it is really going to depend on where you're going to and what that country's restrictions and regulations are for movement. So for others that if you're going overseas, but you're not sure where yet, or you have a different country, Guam, Japan, Korea, definitely reach out and look up what their restrictions are right now, because it's going to be different for every country.
Definitely. And Mimi, you do have a sponsor, right? So, and if you don't, tell your spouse to get on that. Be like, don't make me pick up the phone. Don't make me do it. Okay. So you're welcome, Mimi. So cute. Oh, and then we have some shout outs as well. Paulette, of course. Hey, Paulette, and thanks for sharing as well. For those of you who don't know, Paulette is the 2020 Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year. Thank you, girlfriend. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, and so there's a few questions that we are going to get to offline, and we're going to be posting those resources specifically from the DP3, the move.mil, all of the contact numbers. If you're stuck in a situation where nobody's answering, and keep in mind, just like Megan said in the past, a lot of these offices are kind of working with skeleton crews due to COVID, and email seems to be the best way. But if that's not working, there are other options. There is a chain of command, just like everywhere else. Speaking of that chain of command, no matter what happens, I promise you, a lot of us, as a Marine spouse, used to say, okay, we're not going to go to the command unless this is absolutely necessary, last resort, don't even want to deal with it. But in this situation, COVID has just totally mixed things up. If you are in doubt and you don't know what's happening with your move, contact that chain of command, because they are the ones that know you and can help. They're the decision-making authority. If you need an exception to policy, if it's too much of a hardship being here and not being able to move, if you're carrying 2 mortgages or something like that, have your service member go to their command and get that done. And also stay in contact with the transportation office, your local transportation office. Those 2 are the ones that are going to be handling everything that is all about you and your family. And we're going to take these questions for action. We're going to put the links in the bottom. And just an FYI, next week is a special edition of our webinar series. We're actually going to have a senior representative from the Transportation Command on with us to speak about updates and other questions that we're going to be having. So when you see us start posting about that, we want your questions. Ask us those questions. And we may not be able to answer them right during that webinar next week, but we will get those answers for you. So this is going to be a real special edition of the PCS Q&A next week. So you better stay tuned for that. Amy, I want to thank you so much. Semper Fi, Sister Lou. I love it. And I want to thank Interstate too for allowing this awesome spouse and Recorded to come on and hang out with us and answer these questions. For those of you in the audience that are watching the replay, if you do have questions that were not answered during the webinar, go ahead and put them in the comment section, and we'll keep in touch with Amy because she kind of likes us now, and we'll see if she can't help us out with those answers. As always, Megan is always on it, and she's going to be advocating for this for our PCSs, as she always does. We love her for that. And until next week, have a great weekend.